Good evening, everyone. So this is the London Count Me In rally. Thank you very much for coming on a kind of cold and miserable night in London. So thank you very much for giving us some time in your evenings. Very, very much appreciated. So tonight we've got a couple of guest speakers that we're very lucky to have. We've got Sally Bridge, who's the National Officer for BT Technology, and David Bowman, National Officer for Openreach. We've got Pete Francis of the Telecoms Executive, and we've got John Ballard, who is the BT Committee Secretary for London. So thank you very much for all being on, guys. So we've got a fairly packed schedule tonight. So we've got an update on London waiting from John, which I think a lot of our members in London have been very, very eager to hear any sort of news on that. We're going to be grilling Sally with a couple of questions. We're going to be questioning Davey as well. We've got a quick video presentation as well, which will be for members on how they can get more involved with the Count Me In campaign. It will give you some steps and also signpost you to some future things coming out in the near future. We're also going to have a small segment from Pete Francis on some of the work that we're looking to do with our members in the desk, because we really need your kinds of proposals and your ideas on how we can try and keep these desk sites in London open. And at the end of that, we'll have a quick Q&A where you can ask a question of anyone who is on the stream, any question at all, as long as it's civil. We're more than happy to answer that question for you. So we're going to go first to John with an update with London waiting.
Okay, thanks for that, Will, and good evening, everybody. My name's John Ballard, and I'm the BT Committee Secretary for London. And part of my remit and role is to actually lead up on the London waiting campaigns and organise the branches in London, the 4 telecoms branches in London, on all issues that revolve around that. I'm just going to be quick on this because the actual campaign that we're running at the moment, Count Me In, doesn't include London waiting, and there's a good reason that it doesn't include London waiting, and that's because the Count Me In is a national campaign, not a London-based campaign, and it's based around the loss of desk-based jobs, forced redundancies, attacks on grading, and pension protection and issues such as that. So it's very difficult to actually bring London waiting into that. We've tried, and I did speak to the General Secretary, Telecoms, Andy Kerr, in the last 2 weeks about this. And it's very difficult for us to actually link London waiting into that without giving the company an opportunity or an open goal, as it were, to actually attack pay regionally. So London waiting is it's not been increased since they reneged on the agreement in 2012. That was the last time we actually got an increase in it. So it's not good news, London waiting wise. It has to be put on the back burner whilst we fight the Count Me In campaign, and we have to be mindful that at times, and I know it's very frustrating for all London members because I get loads of phone calls, and the first thing people say is what's going on with London waiting and how are we going to deal with London waiting. The issue is it is there, and Andy Kerr has assured me, and he's assured the officers of our committee that deal with it, that London waiting will be dealt with as a priority this year. Yeah, and he will try and deal with it towards the pay deal and around the pay deal, because that's where it is. Yeah, bearing in mind that's if the company actually come to the table on pay. So that's a quick brief, Will. There is nothing actually further to actually say, apart from the one thing I will say, because it does need saying, is, and that's a massive thank you from all the branches on the consultative ballot from everyone that voted in London. It was an absolutely fantastic turnout where every branch got over 80% of people voting, which was a massive amount of numbers. So I'll hand it back to you now, Will. I know it's not good news, and I know it's not what people want to hear, but unfortunately sometimes we have to sit back on one issue so that we can concentrate on the other, and it would be completely wrong of us to actually start fighting a campaign for London waiting when desk-based jobs in London are actually being axed and cut. So over to you, Will.
Thank you very much for that, John. I think our members are just happy to get some sort of update, even if it isn't necessarily the news that they want to be hearing. But I think we can assure them that we will try and give them as many updates as soon as we have something to give them. We will give them that information. Thank you very much for that, John. So next we're going to go to Sally, and we've actually got a couple of questions for Sally pre-prepared. So the first question that we've got is our members should be aware by now that the only site in London that's been included in the Better Workplace programme is the BT Tower. Now, this has been run to capacity already. And what's your view on the need for more sites in London to be included in the Better Workplace programme?
Okay, well, thanks very much, Will, and thanks for inviting me tonight. As I've been introduced, I'm Sally Bridge, and I'm the officer with responsibility for BT technology. And yes, the first question, Better Workplace. Probably be aware that technology came out the traps first as far as the announcement on Better Workplace back in March 2020, where they announced 6 hubs. This will incorporate the answer, by the way, but I'm just saying that they announced 6 hubs. That's Belfast, Birmingham, Bristol, Ipswich, London and Manchester. And as far as London is concerned, that includes the new building which will replace BT Centre at Aldgate, which is they've bought, and obviously they're gonna renovate. And alongside that, they also announced a number of specialised buildings. Now, these aren't going to be hubs, therefore that they won't have multi-business areas in them. They will just have specialised niche areas. And the BT Tower, which is what you've just referred to, is one of those sites. So there are 2. However, important question is capacity. And it's true to say that technology have not announced on any of the hubs what it will look like. It's clear that the new head office building in London isn't going to be as big as BT Centre, and therefore we have to assume that the capacity for technology is going to be limited. We've got a meeting with Howard Watson next week, and we've also got where Mark Murphy will be attending, the HR director, and this is on the agenda as far as the CW is concerned. It's not just about capacity, it's about what type of work, what lines of the businesses are going into the hubs, and also what is the desk space going to look like. So we know that the plans for Birmingham and Manchester are now on stream, but London is quiet. And of course, we're very conscious of the fact that we need to ensure that we try and protect as many jobs as possible. So this is an unknown quantity, and I guess another thing that has complicated the matter as well is the recent appointment of the new Chief Digital Innovation Officer. That was announced a week or so ago, which is split the organisation of technology into digital and networks. And this will have an impact on Better Workplace, because we are told that when Harmeen Mehta, who is the new digital officer that will be brought in from, she's currently working in Delhi and very much part of a big mobile company out there, is that when she starts on, and she's coming in on March, but she actually takes up her appointment in April, that she will be looking at the hubs, and she'll be looking at obviously what work will go from her side of the business into those hubs. Remember, all of IT will go into Harmeen's little area, and so it's important that we can understand. We won't get the answers straight away because she's not appointed, she's not come in yet, but we do understand that she will be doing that analysis quite quickly. So look, this is a Better Workplace is one of the key strategies of BT as far as their estate and as far as the way that things will pan out over the next 5 years or so. we need to get in and we need to understand the work that's going to be in the hubs, and we need to understand around the jobs. And that is very much London is on the agenda. So hopefully that will give you assurance that we are on the case, albeit that I haven't been able to particularly give you an awful lot of detail because that is not available, even though we are nearly a year down the line from the announcement. The fact is that as far as London is concerned, we haven't been told the actual amount of work that will be retained in London.
Thank you very much for that, Sally. So it's still fairly unclear for our members in technology in London what the future will look like for them. Right, so moving on to our next question for you. Now, there's a lot of our BT technology members have been working from home throughout the pandemic and actually doing a really fantastic job while working from home. And I know it's been mentioned in national negotiations, but is BT Technology actively considering home working as an alternative to the Better Workplace programme and just fully one-site desk working?
Yes, thanks, Will. It's a good question. Smart working, and it is something that the national team have already posed to Mark Murphy as far as a Better Workplace, because we know that if they've only got 6 hubs, there's going to be an awful lot of displacement around the country, and that includes London and the South East. And we need to ensure that smart working is very much integrated into the way of working of technology. We know pandemic has changed the way that we work, and you said, Will, that our members have been doing a great job, and in technology it's been, they've been key workers, keeping the country connected and ensuring that the capacity has been there. I think that the problem we've got is that the pandemic has accelerated the plans for BT's modernisation programme, and that technology will be key and at the very heart of that modernisation programme. Talks are currently ongoing at group level, which Dave Dukes, the national officer, is heading up on smart working. And we know that it is on the agenda as far as BT is concerned. However, we also know that it will be very much down to the CFUs about how much and how broadly this is going to be adopted in different parts of the business. We've already mentioned this to Mark Murphy, as I've said. We believe that smart working is one of the gateways out of to assist us to avoid any compulsory redundancies, and we certainly will be pushing for technology to introduce smart working and home working in order that people can work from home and also have the flexibility in order that it doesn't displace them, and that they're not in the situation that I'm afraid many of other colleagues in technology are currently facing. So those discussions at group level are ongoing. We will have to watch it, and I can assure you, as far as technology is concerned, it's something we will be pushing for the desk-based people, and to ensure that, as I say, that this is about job security at the heart of everything. Thank you.
Cheers for that, Sally. So moving on, so by now most of our members should have heard about the further redundancies and outsourcing announced in Technology's digital workplace services team. It seems like this is the new MO for BT Technology. In your talks, is there any indications that the company might be about to soften its approach in future in terms of outsourcing and redundancy?
I think without doubt, over the last 10 months or so, technology have bombarded us with proposals as far as moving compulsory redundancy and putting that onto the agenda. And I have to say that at times it feels like it's been relentless. And I know that our members in technology are worried about their future as far as what it will look like. I have to say that since June where they announced the first phase of Griffin, which was the national project that we've been dealing with, which is all part of their transformation program. They have been relentless, and during that period, it was extremely difficult, very difficult for us to get any traction, to get any kind of the business to take the CW seriously as far as any counter proposals. And what we did from an early point is that we adopted a line where we literally tabled a lot of alternatives to the business. You know that we surveyed our members as far as voluntarism. And in technology, voluntarism is our key strategy. That is what we stand for, and that is what we've been fighting for. We don't necessarily disagree with the business cases of transformation. What we fundamentally disagree with is the fact is that we are given no say, and our members cannot literally be allowed to have a say in whether they stay or whether they go. And it was very early on when we surveyed our members, it came back that there was a lot of our members that were of an age or that were of a service length that they wanted to leave the company. And we went to technology and we said, look, this is a way that we can work together. We can actually deal with these surpluses. But unfortunately, technology taken a very, very hard line. But all of the people that we represent in technology are either at a C3 or a D1 grade, and it is the view of the business that they're the people, many of them that have got skills that they wish to retain in order to ensure that the transformation continues with the skills that they need, and they want to pick and choose the people who stay and go. And this has been an absolute bugbear to the negotiating team, because we haven't been able to shift them fundamentally from that original view that they actually wanted to pick and choose who they wanted to stay and go. What we did is that we tried to deal with things like job swaps, but they changed the goalposts on that, and now we're into expression of interest. This has, I'm pleased to say, we're just beginning to see that they are taking into consideration and allowing people to actually have a preference around if they want to stay or go. And actually, we are being moderately successful. But I have to say already that we have in technology, there has been a good 50 compulsory redundancies already, and is this going to be the MO going forward? I have to say that I cannot, at this moment in time, see them bending to the CW agenda without any kind of national agreement, which is group wide, or indeed that we actually take the company on. So, as much as I'd like to say that technology are softening up, or that they're a bit of a soft touch, I can assure you they have a transformation program that they are rolling out. They have a better workplace strategy that they will be moving on and rolling out. And our ability at the moment to actually negotiate our way through on that has been limited. And I'm afraid that is a sad state of affairs that we've come to in BT.
Thank you very much for that, Sally. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a bleak picture, but I think our members will be very, very appreciative knowing where we are with technology at the moment. So our last question for you tonight, Sally, apart from the Q&A at the end, is our members in BT Technology have now participated in two consultative ballots, one that was specifically for them, and then the wider national consultative ballot, which took place not that long ago. So I think a lot of our members in that part of the business will be wondering, what does the next step of the Count Me In campaign look for them, considering they've had a bit of a different path to, say, Openreach and other parts of the business?
Yeah, and look, I've sort of tried to outline the challenges that we've had in technology, and the issue has been is that technology have really tabled their change and moved on their transformation program a lot quicker and in a far more ruthless way than many of the other CFUs. For instance, consumer, and at the moment, Openreach, relatively untouched by the redundancy situation. Small job losses in enterprise, in group there have been some, but it has been technology that have borne the brunt of the redundancies over the last 8 months or so. And so at that time, in the absence of any national campaign, it was down to the technology national team to put up as much as a resistance to the proposals as we possibly could, and to try and negotiate a way forward. And as I've said earlier, that has been limited as far as the success that we've had. Yes, we have had consultative ballots, and we've had to do that in advance of any national rollout because, quite frankly, we've had no alternative because we haven't had the luxury of time to wait for the national campaign to catch up with what some of the stuff that we've been doing in technology, because our members have been under threat of compulsory redundancies. So now that the national campaign is coordinated, and now that we've had the national consultation ballot, you will find that technology will need to fall in line with the national, let's say, initiatives that will be taken place. And we've had a branch forum yesterday where we've updated the branches as far as what the work that is going on and how we intend to take that campaign forward. And technology will be part of that. And the reason is we have to be coordinated now. It cannot be that there'll be offshoots of different CFUs doing their own thing, because it has to be that there is a clear, defined way in this campaign as far as negotiation and as far as tactics, as far as the campaigning is concerned. So we will continue to oppose the proposals and put counter proposals and do what we have to do in technology with the management to ensure that as much resistance is put on and pressure from the CWU to support and protect our members. But ultimately, it will need to dovetail into the national campaign and count me in order that we have a coordinated, joined up approach as far as this threat to our members' livelihoods.
Thank you very much for that, Sally. Nice clear picture for our technology members to look out for there. So thank you very much for that. So we're going to move on to Davey Bowman. So he's now moving into the hot seat so we can grill him. Hi there, Davey. Thank you very much for coming on.
No problem at all. Well, glad to be here.
So our first question for you is that we had yet another announcement in BT of an unagreed pay point and grading for new joiners in FTTP and Openreach. And of course, we've got now sort of two different structures of pay and grading, and this would represent another one on top of that. So should our existing members be worried about this new type of grade and how it could be used to chip away at their terms and conditions?
Yeah, I think they should, and Sally's very clearly outlined the challenges in technology, and I think whilst different, the attitude and the approach of the company right across BT, which is why the events like this are so important, is clear. Yeah, I mean, the company wrote to the CWU on the 21st of December to outline a plan for a new approach for FTTP provision, which of course we all know is the future. And what the proposal contains is of course a direct threat to not only how our members work at the moment, but the long-term job security, because it sets out without any discussion and without any going through the proper evaluation process, a brand new pay point. No logic, no rationale behind it. There's a brand new pay point. They want to be in a position where at the end of the day, there's no overtime. They've not set out what happens to somebody that's unfortunate enough to have to work on, but there'll be no end of day overtime. Monday to Sunday will become a normal attendance with no premia and a contractual 5-day week. A 10% bonus based on completions, so performance related, and a bonus that's based on the individual and not team. And of course, at the crux of the threat to the job security is that their plan is to have a permanent reliance on third party in order to carry out FTTP provision. Now, I think about the emails and the contact that I get from branches and individual members on a regular basis, and our members are quite rightly concerned. They're at the forefront. You know, the pandemic at the moment, they've done an absolutely fantastic job in difficult circumstances, and still providing, still maintaining the network. But they're out there at the minute, and many of them are copper skilled, and many of them have been with the company for many years. And I know that many of them have sought fibre upskilling, not necessarily for those who are B2s because it has an impact on their pay, but because they're concerned about their future. So they want to understand that they have a future. That's not back on a regular basis, because at this point in time, their copper skills, the company says, is too valuable. They can't release them to go and get those fibre skills. So you begin to think a wee bit ahead in the day. You know, Openreach announced another 51 locations where they'll be closing down the copper network and pushing people on to fibre at a certain point once they get the right number of customers. And of course, the way in which they do that is they stop selling and stop supporting copper and make it financially better for people to move on to fibre. So what happens at that point if you're one of those copper skilled people who has not been able to get fibre skills? Well, your future's uncertain, isn't it? Your future's very, very uncertain. And certainly in a position where all the FTTP provision work, the volume work, has actually been handed to third parties. So the proposal as it stands at the moment, and when I call it a proposal, it's a very, difficult use of the word proposal, because it wasn't a proposal. It was a letter to tell us what they were going to do, and that they would keep us informed as they got on with it. So it is a threat. It's a fundamental threat to the terms and conditions going forward, because our members at this point in time who are on the Workforce 2020 contract have a 10% bonus. This would absolutely be performance related. It's a new pay point, and those of you that are on here tonight from Openreach will smile, because the company sees this as another chance for career progression. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because what they're doing is actually pushing the career progression in a negative way. So you come in as a trainee and you move to 23%. I'm not sure how that enhances the career progression or job security of our existing members and their existing employees. So this really is about the future, and it is an integral part of the Count Me In campaign, because pay, grading, job security, all those things are threatened by the introduction or the proposal to introduce this new role. And they call it a trial, and they haven't even, in a position where they have gone on to great fanfare to be creating circa 5,000 jobs, 2,500 in Openreach and 2,800 in what they call the supply chain. In other words, third party. To great fanfare, what they didn't mention is, once again, there's a dilution of terms and conditions, and once again, there's a race to the bottom. So we have sent back and contacted the company a very robust response in terms of their proposal, and to date we have had no response to that, and no reply, and no indication that they are likely to reply. So it's a key issue for us, it's a key issue for the members, and yes, well, it's an absolute threat to a number of the things that our members enjoy at the moment.
Thank you very much for that, Davey. And I think think one of the key points from that is, I think certainly in a lot of those press releases that went out, I think the sort of confusing wording now, when most people think of supply chain, they think of BT supplies, sort of the FSLs, forward stores locations, the people supplying the kit and actually supporting our engineers out in the field that are actually BT employees. Whilst this, of course, is actually no indication of supporting that side. It's actually farming out work to third-party contractors to have it done cheaper. Right, David. So thank you very much for that, mate. So next on, now Openreach's Better Workplace plans will completely wipe out all desk-based work in London and South East of England. So how important is it to the Count Me In campaign that we try and save as many of those desk-based sites as we can?
Yeah, it's crucial. You're absolutely correct. London and the South East is completely decimated. And when we have, and those of you that are desk-based will recall the Working Together programme, and I'll come back to that a wee bit. But London and the South East, absolutely decimated. Openreach is pulling out of there. Now, this is where there's this dilemma and where they try and get off the hook a wee bit, because what they, of course, the Better Workplace programme is a group-wide programme, and it involves the strategy of the group is to move to 30-something locations. Now, out of those 30-something locations, of course, Openreach have chosen 9. But don't be fooled by the 9, because, of course, one of the 9 is Judge Street. And you can be absolutely sure that none of our members in their mucky boots will get over the threshold of Judge Street once Openreach's location strategy has been set out. So Openreach have determined where those locations are. That has not been determined by somebody else, excuse me, somewhere else. So they are responsible for the decision. Openreach are responsible for the decision to pull out of London and the South East. And you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs. This has a major impact for our desk-based people within Openreach. Now, it also comes with a very sinister side to it, because what's also happening is at the same time, and of course they call this a 3 to 5 year programme, and they're being very nice to people by allowing them to think about their future and allowing them to think about what may be possible in the next 3 to 5 years before the buildings close. But let's be honest, what they've said to people is, do you want to go? Well, anybody that's in desk in Openreach has been asked, I don't know how many times, do they want to go? And they keep asking and they keep asking, and they've asked again just now. So, do you want to go? No, I don't want to go. I want a job. I want to stay in Openreach, and I want to stay in London. Okay. Well, if you don't want to go, do you want to look at something, an alternative? You know, maybe go out into the field-based core, back in as a CSE, whatever. Do you want to look at those? Yeah, a few people might be interested in that. What do they take away? They take away pay and pension protection, because what they're saying is, at this point in time, there is no building closure date for that building. Therefore, if you move now, you're doing so voluntarily. Therefore, the protections that currently exist don't exist. The other thing they're doing, and this is certainly impacting members in London, and I've had calls with members that deal with a particular product who are based in Colombo, and they've got colleagues up in Preston, and we've held calls to talk about the impact, and they're actually being asked to write process documents and training documents for the people who are going to take their jobs when they're no longer there, either third party or people who will be employed on new terms and conditions and on lesser money in one of the other big locations. So, for example, Birmingham Snow Hill at the moment is in the process of being finalised, and people will start moving in there from the likes of Coventry, Leicester, Derby and the surrounds. And what's happening is, the realistic position is that those people who cannot move, who decide to go, their work will move to Birmingham Snow Hill, but there will be external recruitment to bring people into the company. But instead of them being paid the rate of pay, the C3 rate of pay that they're paid at the moment, they'll be paid either 24 or 29,000, depending on the complexity of the work. So you see, this is not just, and for London and the southeast, it's massive. And I've been talking to the branches in London. I've been talking to Bill Dixon, who's the regional coordinator, and Dave Kaufman from the southeast about how can we, galvanise the same way that Sally was talking about what's happening in technology as part of the wider campaign. How do we galvanise and run a campaign in London and the southeast to do something about this? Because there is absolutely no way. Openreach are hiding just now. Sally's right. We haven't been faced with the type of threats of compulsory redundancies at this point in time. But when faced up the HR director and when faced up the managing directors, well, certainly one of the managing directors of F&D, Kevin Murphy, met us. Unfortunately, Ollie from Service Delivery wasn't available. Not sure why. Well, I'll let you draw your own conclusions for that. Every time we get the opportunity to challenge them about it, basically what we get is the argument, well, it's big shiny buildings and our people will be better and they'll be more productive and more efficient and happier. Well, I tell you what, I said I'd come back to working together, and I will briefly. Working together was difficult for hundreds and hundreds of people. We started off with a proposal for 23 sites, and we got the company up to 32 sites, plus 4 what was known as retained sites, one of which is in the southeast, which was Portsmouth. So we managed to get that put up. But what was even more important as part of the Working Together programme was a commitment from the company where somebody couldn't move to another location, one of the 32 or one of the 4 retained sites, the company would continue to bring work to them. And that has stuck. That has stuck. We have got people in lots of different locations, 1s and 2s and 4s and 6s, where the company has been bringing work to them. We have challenged Openreach and said, look, you reached an agreement with us before, reach an agreement with us again and give those people the longevity and the certainty that they need to continue the work that they're doing, and they're not interested in going down that particular road, because what they want to do is twofold. They want to close the buildings, they want to move to the new locations, and they want to recruit people on worse terms and conditions and on less pay. So absolutely it's a threat, absolutely it's a key part of the Count Me In campaign. And as the officer responsible for Openreach, I'll give you my personal commitment that I'll work with the branches, with the regional coordinator, with the members to do everything we can as part of the campaign to reverse this decision. There is no way Openreach will be able to deliver what they deliver down to 9 sites, not 8 sites, not including Judge Street, without making compulsory redundancies. So the fight is here and the fight is now.
Thank you very much for that, Davey. And we'll have a bit more on that, on how you as members in our desk-based sites can actually get involved in that, because we will be needing as much participation from the people working in those sites to try and deliver that goal of keeping as many sites open as we can. So thank you very much for that, Davey. So we've got a similar question, pretty much the same question that we had for Sally. Now, bearing in mind the different CFUs have got sort of different models of how they're going to be working. So we also have the same question on smart working and whether Openreach are actually seriously considering this as an alternative to forced redundancies in London and the South East.
Yeah, well, we've, as Sally said, Dave Dukes, our colleague, is looking at a group-wide process and seeing whether we could get some form of group-wide agreement to make this more formal and workable. And I suppose when we talk about smart working, it means different things to different people, sometimes called agile working, but basically it's a balance between having to be in the office and working from home, as opposed to home working, which is a permanent arrangement for working from home for various reasons. Yeah, our members have been at home now for what is coming up to 12 months. From an Openreach point of view, very quickly, within about a couple of weeks, we had 98% of people working from home, some of whom in very difficult circumstances. Kitchen tables, couches, sitting with laptops on their knees in the initial stages until it was resolved. And they have done a fantastic job. And we haven't noticed, and I don't think the company's noticed, any derogation of service. There's certainly not been any issues raised about productivity or efficiency. In fact, all the feedback that we get is realistically that they're getting more out of people while they are working from home. So from that perspective, yeah, we have challenged the senior people within Openreach as to what their approach to agile or smart working is likely to be. And we get the normal response. Well, those are discussions that are going on at a group level, and we'll see what comes out of that, and we'll see what's applied. So they're not going to go out with that particular sort of policy at this point in time. But what they have made very clear to me and very clear to the team is when they talk about that, they're talking about a period where you would be working at home and a period where you would be working in the office in one of the 8 locations. They are not talking about and are not willing to consider smart or agile working where you spend a period of time at home and then into the office 1 or 2 days into a building, a local building, or an exchange or whatever that somebody could do. So they're not, I don't want people to be conned into thinking that Openreach has approached it. If they say, yeah, we'll look at smart working or agile working, is somehow going to mean you can toodle down the road to the local exchange and work there a couple of days a week, or even jump in a train and go somewhere once a month or once a fortnight. That's their approach to how they want to do it. The other side of it, of course, is and why Dave and his team are so forceful in seeking to get an agreement. I mentioned earlier on Birmingham, Snow Hill, and our members in Leicester and Derby, Coventry, etc. And they've been having discussions with their managers about the possibility of doing a bit of both. But that would mean, for example, for the people in Leicester, say working 2 days at home and 3 days in the office, or 3 days at home and 2 in the office. But it still means them going to Birmingham. But the problem is that's based on an informal agreement and an informal discussion with our manager, based on the fact it suits the manager at this point in time for them to be able to do it. And more importantly, and just as importantly, it suits the function that they currently work. Because as well as I do, that our desk members in Openreach have been multi-skilled so many different times over the years, and certainly as part of working together, that even if you move to one of the new buildings, you're not guaranteed to carry on being a planner, being a controller, whatever. It's just not, there's no guarantee of that. So they talk nicely about it. And I would say to anybody who's listening, who is having that type of conversation, regardless of where they are, because no doubt you'll have viewers across the piece, is think very carefully before you do that. And certainly, from my perspective, during my working life, if I've come to an agreement with any manager about anything, I've wanted it in writing. And that's why Dave and his team are working really hard to try and get something that formalises it. That means if you fall out with your boss, they can't change their mind. And if their function changes, then the company can't withdraw from it. So it's a difficult road for us. Well, it's not a straightforward answer, but I wouldn't want folk in London to think, well, if we manage to achieve an agreement on smart working and agile working, and that'll be great because it will work for many people. It is not about you can work from home for a couple of days and then you can toodle into Colombo House or Dartford or Portsmouth or whatever, because those places are not going to be there.
Cheers for that, Davey. So, right, last question we've got for you. So now, personal travel time has been a long-standing issue for our engineering community. So I was just wondering if you had any reassurance to our field guys out there that PTT is still very much a part of the campaign that is taken very, very seriously at head office.
Yeah, I mean, a bit like John explained earlier on about London Waiting. The Count Me In campaign is quite clearly around job security, pay, the evaluation of jobs, reskilling, retraining, etc. But we haven't given up on PTT, you see. And the reason that we haven't been successful around personal travel time up to date is, I don't believe Openreach were convinced it was that much of an issue in their view, and we've been pushing really hard to get them to the table to talk about it. We did run the campaign around the petition, and various regions that took various different bits of activity, but it never really took off. It never really got the kind of momentum, certainly, that Count Me In has got. But it's absolutely forefront from our perspective, because we will never change the company's mind on things like PTT unless we shift their attitude to how they deal with the CWU and how they deal with our members. That's fundamentally the position, because everything has changed. Look, the people that are officers in this union, and the vast majority of the executive and the vast majority of the branch officers out there over the last 18 months to 2 years, haven't all of a sudden had this personality change, and all of a sudden we just want to be a pain in the neck for the company all the time. The reality of the situation is it's the company that's changed. We a number of years ago, when we first had the mobile workers, and personal travel time was part of that because they had to move about the country, we did a deal and it was taken away. We got removed from the contracts of individuals, and then new people come along and they believe it's something that is required. So what we did, and briefing 22 has gone out this week about the incentive trial that they've extended across the whole of the UK. And the important thing is, we got them round the table with a remit from our perspective for the removal of PTT based on a basket of measures. In their mind, well, you know that they see personal travel time as a cost. That wee bit of time and big bit of time at the end of the day that they nick from people, if they're going to give it back, they see it as a cost and they qualify it. So how do we get to a position where recognising that cost, recognising, not agreeing with it, but recognising there's a cost, how do we create something, a wrap around a basket of measures that means what we can do is get PTT removed and put in place other advantages for our members, for example, around the better use of Flex and a more flexible use of Flex, and also the potential for a team-based incentive scheme that doesn't go anywhere near the existing 10% bonus, because I should have said earlier, in terms of the threat, of course, the union's policy is very clear on the 10% bonus, and that is it should be consolidated into pay, and that way it flows through to overtime and pension payments, and therefore it benefits you now and it benefits you long term. So the Count Me In campaign is about jobs, it's about skilling, it's about regrading, it's about retraining, it's about pensions, it's about job security, it's about those things. We win that campaign, and fundamentally the company will have no choice but to deal with us on PTT, because the attitude will have to change. They will have to respect the members, they will have to respect the people that represent them, and it will give us that leverage in order to move this issue forward. The company has chosen to roll out the incentives element of it, and they have not rolled out the PTT element. Well, I'll tell you what, the PTT element has been running in two places. One is West Downs in the southeast, and the other's in Stoke-on-Trent. And they have presented no data to us whatsoever, none whatsoever, to say that the removal of PTT has in any way damaged their ability to deliver service for the customer. So this for them is a bit like better workplace and location strategy. It's a bit like their attitude on compulsory redundancies. It's about a dogma, right? It's because they can. It's because they can. And what we've got to do is we've got to create an environment whereby they sit down with us, and they can, because they agree with us, they can, and they agree with us on behalf of the people we represent. So it's not going away. It's not going away. But the Count Me In campaign is fundamentally about those issues that I've outlined, and it's fundamentally about changing the attitude of the company in order that what we can do is progress these issues on our members' behalf. And there's no lack of willingness or enthusiasm to do so.
I'm on mute. That doesn't help, does it? Right. Thank you very much for that, Davey. If anyone's got a question for anyone that we've got on the panel, please just leave a comment. I've seen a couple have come in, so we'll deal with them at the end when we get to the Q&A. But now we've actually got a short video presentation. This is for our members, and this will hopefully give you a few steps and a few ideas in order to show you how you can get better involved with the Count Me In campaign.
The London region of the CWU is calling on members to join in with the Count Me In campaign. It's critical at this point in the campaign that we have as many members involved as we can. You may be asking why we need you to be involved with the Count Me In campaign. We need you to help spread the message to every corner of BT. This campaign is being run during a global pandemic, and it is very difficult for officers and reps to get out into the field and spread that message. That's why we need you to help us. There is still plenty of members out there that don't understand what this campaign is about and how serious these issues with BT are. This is your opportunity to get your views across and get your opinions heard within this campaign. It is deadly serious, and we really need as many different opinions and views to help us make this campaign a success. We need you to help secure a better future for every worker in BT. The changes that BT are pushing through, we cannot let stand. Now, what do we need you to do to be a Count Me In volunteer? We need you to talk regularly with your branch and share your ideas of how we can win this fight and spread the campaign updates with your teammates. Let your branch know how your team are feeling and how far they are willing to go to support this campaign. This campaign will not be a success unless every member is on the same page and is willing to take action. Challenge and educate your teammates who won't engage with the campaign. There are many members out there who are not interested and will not engage with us, but they are more likely to talk to you as a teammate and a colleague. We need you to make sure that this campaign is talked about everywhere, in team meetings, in your team WhatsApp groups, and on social media, and on workplace. So, how are we going to get started? Look out for emails from your local branch asking you to identify as a Count Me In volunteer, or if you're really eager to join in, you can contact them yourself and get involved. Branches will be holding a series of closed online meetings to discuss your ideas, your suggestions, and give you the tools that you need to get involved with the campaign. In the meantime, you can get up to speed with the campaign on social media and the CW website. There are plenty of updates on the latest industrial issues that are driving this campaign. We really need you to share and comment on all of the campaign's social media, whether that be from your local branch or from the CW's main Facebook and Twitter. The more we share this information out, the more the public will be on our side. And that is critical as we move into the next phase of this campaign.
Right. Apologies there about the Q&A slide, because that's going to be at the end, not actually now. So that's my fault. Look out for invites coming from local branches, because we will be asking as many of you as possible to get involved with the campaign directly. So next we're going to move on to Pete Francis, and we're going to be talking about counter proposals for our desk-based workers. Once again, we're going to be asking for member involvement. Right.
Thanks, Will. Hello, evening, everybody. My name's Pete Francis. I'm on the executive, and I work closely with the London branches in this campaign. What I wanted to just start off saying is how important you are to this campaign. In fact, you are the most important part to this campaign, and this union is about you, and it's about, we work for you, and basically we negotiate on your behalf. And without your support in this campaign, which the reason we are mounting this campaign is because you've asked us to, and it's what is critical to your futures and everybody working in BT and Openreach. What we're looking at moving forward in the London region is starting a counter proposal campaign within London. And what it's going to involve to start off with is our desk-based colleagues, where we're going to be starting up a series of Zoom meetings with all sites in London, where we want you to participate and tell us the reasons why your building needs to stay open and why your jobs need to remain in London. Without your expert help, because you're the ones that know your job, you know your locations and why it's critical for that work to stay there. And what we need is for you to be engaged with us on the Zoom meetings and writing to us and contacting us to tell us the reasons for your buildings and work, why it needs to remain. This will get you and your colleagues involved in this campaign. This will allow us to use you as our go-to people to talk to your colleagues. And what we're asking from this meeting is, even if you just talk to one colleague and ask that colleague to talk to somebody else, just to tell them how important it is, because as the presentation said, it needs you to on board to make this work and to make the campaign as strong as possible moving forward. What we will be doing is inviting all of our colleagues onto these calls. We will be setting up a mailbox and some contact details for you to contact us with all your proposals, why you think your buildings and why your work needs to remain, which we will use in our negotiations for the London sites. It's critical that you take part in these calls, and it's be critical that we get your information. And it's so important if you could just pass that information onto your work colleagues and ask them to be involved and come part of the Zoom meetings and become part of this campaign, so that we can build it into a strong campaign so the company cannot refuse and do not take notice. They have to take notice of us. This is the most important campaign you will probably face in your whole BT career. Doesn't matter if we've all been on a number of years. Up until this stage, I don't think we've ever faced a time like this. And I'm sure you understand that with Sally and Davey explaining in technology and Openreach, and it doesn't matter if you don't work for one of these divisions, you are faced, if not now, in the near future, with similar stories of what's been told tonight. So please get involved. Please watch out for emails and communication from your branches and the London region, where we will be inviting you. You are not forgotten. You are the most important people in this campaign, and don't forget it. Thanks very much, Will.
Thank you very much for that, Pete, mate. Right, so we've got a few questions that have popped in. So I think first one we can go to. So Ian Wilkes has asked, why was the PTT agreed in the first place, Davis? I think I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, no problem. Quite simply, it never was agreed. It was introduced into the contract at the point at which they originally created the mobile workforce, and that was at the time when the FTTC rollout was at the very NGA rollout was at the very beginning, and they were, as they called it, lighting up cabinets at various times, and they needed people to move about. It was then removed from the contract, and we did that and issued, our great LTBs, and it was removed from people's contracts, and then it was reintroduced in a very small way over the next few years. But what was clear, I think, is for a lot of people, there was no at that time there was no real impact. It wasn't really abused in the way it's been abused more recently. So the simple answer to the question is that the change to the contractual status, PTT, was never agreed with the CWU. And I think what's important about that is bear in mind what I set out with regard to the FTTP role, with regard to no overtime, trackers being contractual, Monday to Sunday, no premier. You know, if we don't do something about these issues, then those contractual changes will be there forever and will spread across the rest of the workplace. So it was never agreed in the first place.
Thank you for that, Pete. So we've had a question from Peter Aldridge. Why are we not on strike now? So I think I'm going to give that one to Sally to answer, if you wouldn't mind.
No problem. Right. Well, it's a very good question, given the some of the challenges and some of the threats that we're facing at the moment from the employer, an employer that has changed beyond recognition and is relentless as far as the way that they are treating our members. But strike. There's a lot of issues involved in strike action, not least, I have to say, some legislation that was introduced many years ago by a vindictive Conservative government that have put very much the unions into a straitjacket as far as the way that what we can and we can't do. And we have to do this properly. If we do not do this properly, then I can assure you, not only will we land up in a high court with fines that will bankrupt the CWU, but it will actually finish the CWU as far as and it will do our credibility no good whatsoever. So what is the right way of doing this? The right way is, first and foremost, is to build up momentum. And I think you'll agree that the consultative ballot has started to do that. It's been many, many years since the CWU took any kind of action and asked our members to support the union in strike action. And those days where we did do it, as I say, was only the odd day, and it was many years ago. We now have a different workforce, and we have members that don't know what strike action is about. And also, we've had to educate, and we've also had to get our own house in order. And when I talk about our own house in order, I mean our records, because if our records are not up to date and we do not have the correct information, we cannot get even out of the starting blocks as far as a formal statutory ballot. But the one thing that you need to be aware of is the threshold, is that we need to gain a 50% plus threshold, not just in turnout, but in the yes vote. And we had, I think you'll agree, a fantastic electronic vote where we got 97% of our members voting yes, and a huge turnout as well. But an electronic vote is not the same as a postal vote. And we have to make sure that all parts of our union, all parts of our membership on the telecom side in BT understand what the campaign's about, and also understand that they need to vote in a postal ballot and return their ballot paper. So what we're doing at the moment is that we've analysed the vote, we've analysed where we're not so strong, and work is being done in those areas as we speak. The branches were briefed yesterday, and we'll have a communications plan, and it will move forward. And in tandem, the negotiations are ongoing. And there is a window in which the negotiations must take place in order that we ensure that every possible chance is taken to reach a negotiated settlement. Because we believe that is, at the end of the day, that is what our members want. And ultimately, I have to say, that is what we have to achieve, irrespective of whether we go down the industrial action route or not, is a negotiated settlement along the lines of the issues that Davey said around job security, about job evaluation, about unagreed pay points, about pay, all of those things that are extremely important to us at the moment. So we're not on strike at the moment, and because one, we are stymied by the legislation that we have to get right, and we are going to get it right. Secondly, we are building momentum amongst the membership in every single area of the membership, and that's in areas such as consumer, where they've got different types of membership than they have in technology and Openreach. And also the fact is that negotiations at the moment are ongoing, and we obviously want negotiating the DGST to reach a negotiated settlement in order to avoid strike action in the first place. But the preparation work is definitely being laid and is ongoing, and if necessary, we will move to strike action.
Thank you very much for that, Sally. I think there was a question along similar lines, but I think you've answered this one as well quite well, asking why after such a great result there doesn't seem to be much happening, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So rest assured, you may not be seeing much happening in your workplace or on the front line. That doesn't mean that an awful lot of work isn't going on behind closed doors to try and reach an agreement that will try and satisfy as many people as we can. So we've got a question from Tom Walker. If you don't mind, John, if you wouldn't mind answering that one. He's asked, what can the postal branches do to show us support? You need to unmute yourself, John.
I do apologise. I thought you could do it centrally. It's good to see you on, Tom, and it's great to talk to you, because we always, as a branch, we've always helped you out during your disputes as a postal branch, bearing in mind that we share the same geography. And we were only talking about this yesterday, funny enough, some of our officers. We may be calling upon you for some office space at some point, but no, just the moral support. And I think the things that you can help us with is actually, and it was something that happened in the last postal dispute, where we put all the stuff out and all the propaganda and all the stuff that came from the union out, so that every single person in this union understood the whole issue across the union. So there wasn't an us and them within the postal. So if there's anything you can do for us on that side, that's where we really would like you to look at. And I'm sure the 4 London branches would be knocking on your door should we need any photocopying or help done, should we actually go on strike and not be able to access our offices.
Cool. Thank you very much for that one, John. I think that's about it in the comment section. So I'm going to give it a last chance. So if anyone wants to ask a question of any one of our panelists, this is sort of your last chance alone to ask them a question and have it answered tonight. I'll just give people a minute there just to see if any more can come through. But if we don't get any through, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming on and answering the questions that we put to them tonight. So thank you all very much for coming. I haven't seen anything else come through, so I think we'll close it off round about there. Just one last thing I've been reminded to, because I completely forgot to mention. If you are a member, please make sure that your home address, your OUC, if you are a DD payer, is all up to date, and please just make sure we have up to date contact information for you, personal mobile number, personal email, anything like that. And Ian Wilkes has just given a good suggestion. Suggest we all change our workplace pics to the campaign logo. Very good suggestion, Ian, mate. I suggest we all do that. I'm not on workplace, but feel free to do it. Right, thank you very much for all that, guys, and keep safe. Thank you for being on.
Thank you.